Thank you.
Welcome to Speak to the Expert at 6 o'clock on YouTube. I'm live right now. Thank you for joining us. We have a ray of hope, per se, as far as the vaccinations of COVID are concerned. Just to give you, bring you up to speed, the Lancet Journal has published results of the early human trials of the Oxford University AstraZeneca COVID vaccine. Now, this is the front runner. It's among the two front runners in the world to perhaps be ready before other candidates. Now, apparently, the initial response shows that the vaccine is one, safe, and two, capable of producing an immune response. So it apparently triggers T cells in the body as well. And this is seen as hugely, and I quote, hugely promising and optimistic. Now, remember, this is the vaccine that the Serum Institute of India in Pune will manufacture in bulk. This is the one that Adar Poonawalla runs, and it will be responsible for mass producing the final product in India, as the vaccines will be sold globally, but not before India gets its first dig at it. There is a second candidate, and that's the CanSino coronavirus vaccine, which has also shown immune response in human trials. This one's coming out of China's military research unit. So we have two options. We have two, candidates here that are front runners. There are altogether about 23 possible vaccines being developed across the world, but these are the two that are likely to hit first. Now, it's interesting that even though we know that the initial tests are coming out clean, the early human trials, we must remember that there is phase 2 and phase 3. Then there are the approvals from all of the regulators, and finally there's mass production. This is, this could mean maybe at some point, and there are some experts who have said that phase 3 might fail and that might junk the whole thing. So the question that we're asking today is, how far away are we from getting a vaccination? Professor Nirmal Kumar Ganguly joins us right now, former Director General of the Indian Council for Medical Research. Professor Ganguly, I cannot tell you how grateful we are that you've taken time out of your day to speak with us. Thank you so much. My first question to you is a very straightforward question that everyone's asking across the country. Is it the vaccination that we're waiting for before we can resume life as normal? Will that be the difference between where we are today and going back to where we used to be?
Actually, Faye, we are waiting for two events. The first one is herd immunity, and the second one is vaccine, because otherwise we see that this pandemic is going to last very, very long. So, but at the moment, if you really ask me, we have a glimmer of hope, but we should keep our finger crossed. And I will come to that if you ask me a question. If you give me a vaccine today, I will not know what to do. People will start attacking me because I will not be able to take that vaccine to people immediately. So we will have to prepare for that. And as you have rightly said, that two papers are published. One is of the Oxford AstraZeneca. Second one is the CanSino, and third one is the Moderna. Moderna is also very far ahead. Many of them have finished phase 1/phase 2. So they have gone up to almost 1,000 volunteers, and they have data of 1,000 volunteers. But you have to, at this given moment, as you have said, there are 19 or 20 front runners which are moving around, and we will have to make a choice. If I have to make a choice, I will depend on vaccines which are subunit vaccines, which are using the least of the viral material, or which are using a synthetic material, not virus, because this virus is a dangerous virus. There are components of this virus which do immune enhancing antibodies, or they induce inflammation and autoimmune system. We don't know about that. So, and I will also depend on organizations which have known platform with which they have worked with other vaccines, so that they are sure about the safety of the vaccine and they're sure about their adjuvants which they're using in the vaccine. So this will be one of my criteria. in making a choice. And I will try to look at all the vaccines around the globe and try to see the fine print. I have seen the fine prints in this trial, and fine prints, some produce hope, some produce a huge number of questions. Even in the Oxford vaccine, there are questions. If you want me to identify those questions, I will identify. And if you want me to say identify some positive things, I will identify the positive things also.
Well, let me take this piece by piece, Doc, if I may. You did say, of course, you would choose. My question is, do you think we would have a choice? Who would choose in our case? Would it be the ICMR who would choose which vaccine we would have access to?
I will see that there is an independent scientific community who doesn't have any conflict of interest. This scientific community, with the help of the government and with the help of the other universities and institutes, a board is created. This board should make a choice, and this board should be constituted right away, so that, because we don't have time, we have to daily monitor these, so that, and we do not know whether there will be a vaccine from India. At the moment, the vaccine in India, which is under trial at the moment, there are two. One is a heat-killed whole cell vaccine, and the other is a plasmid DNA vaccine. So we will have to really look at everything. We do not know which vaccine is going to succeed. And if a vaccine which is available in other countries that succeeds, we will have to know that how do we access that. So we will have to open our trial sites to all the vaccines. And as you have rightly said, that AstraZeneca has licensed to Serum Institute. Serum Institute has made an application for a trial here. And many of the vaccines are being tried in the different countries, like Oxford vaccine. Now they have gone to South Africa as well as Brazil, because the prevalence in UK is not that much. So so ultimately, when when we make a choice, it will be a vaccine of any country, and we should be able to access this. So we should actually establish partnerships for that.
Doc, the ICMR had obviously put an unofficial deadline of the 15th of August for the development of the Indian vaccine, which most experts have said is unlikely or not impossible, in fact, to meet. But I want to understand from you, how early or how late do you think we might get a vaccine, whether it is the AstraZeneca vaccine or the one being developed in China or the one being developed in India? Is it likely to be the end of this year or early next year?
So today, the vaccine which was in question has started its trial by All India Institute of Medical Sciences. The director was on the net, and the All India Institute of Medical Sciences is a very capable organization, and they have recruited 370 volunteers, and the first doses have just gone in. And as you know that we have to go to phase 2, we have to go to phase 3, and this is going to take at least those who are the front runners. They might reach at the end of the year, but not the introduction. They may have a vaccine at the end of the year with production geared up, and or in the first half of the 2021, not before that. Because even after you have a vaccine, you will have to look at that how the allocations and how the manufacturing and how the other particular logistics will be done. I will also come to one more point before these choices are being made, that I will see that they have gone through the complete drill before they have gone to trial. Like majority of the vaccines go through 3 concept things. One is a mice which has got ACE2 in the challenge. The other one is monkey. There they also have to undergo a challenge. And third is reaction with convalescent plasma, and very rigorous preclinical studies, so that we know that there is no disease enhancing and other process or the processes which affect metabolism. If any of the vaccine have not gone through this, and the regulate, that is why the FDA has come up with a distinctive regulatory pathway for this vaccine. They have a pathway for most vaccines, but this vaccine merited an independent regulatory pathway. I will see that this pathway has been followed. And you will have to read the companies when they put up information, and you have to analyze. Like
Yes.
Oxford vaccine, when it went to monkeys, it didn't make monkey disease free. It muted the disease in monkeys, but gave good neutralizing antibodies. So they went ahead, because the neutralizing antibodies are a big challenge, because in natural infection, some don't even form it. And when they form peak at 3 weeks, it drops very exponentially. So they had some T cell responses in the monkeys, and that is why they went and got the T cell responses in the human measured, which gives a long-term memory. And
So,
Singapore, one
yes,
more point, if I could emphasize,
yes.
there's a paper from Duke University, NSU from Singapore, which has looked at the T cells and responses, and they have seen that the COVID-1, those who got the COVID-1 vaccine, the T cell responses of them have lasted 17 years. This is something very, very important. They also found that those who are not getting the disease, they have got a good T cell response. So Oxford vaccine has got it.
Yes.
So even though they didn't get the monkey results as desired, their immune responses in most of the volunteers at the moment look good, but we don't know at the moment what are the protective immune responses and how long these antibodies will last.
Well, the fact that this Oxford vaccine has to go into its phase 3 at this point, what is the likelihood now that it has achieved, it has established that it is safe and that it creates an immune response and T cells? What is the likelihood that it will be successful?
You know, the safe is a mute word for the COVID vaccines. Every COVID vaccine, like if you look at Moderna, at higher doses, it has SAEs. Oxford vaccine also higher doses had SAEs. The middle dose is at the moment being used. But there is a fever, Malay, body ache, headache, but fever is exactly flu-like fever. And some get even 103 degrees. And one of the Moderna recipients got 103 degrees fever. When you go to larger population, many more will get fever. So the Oxford guys are giving paracetamol along with the vaccine trial. So this will be a challenge. Going to phase 3, when you go to all population, particularly when you go to larger population like CanSino vaccine, at the moment the data is available for 18 to 55. The older population is being recruited who may have an underlying conditions. So the older population data in CanSino vaccine is not very good. So we do not know. When you go to phase 3, what will be the result?
Doc, you also talked about how somebody who has the vaccine right now, people will just mob and they will actually be a mad rush for the vaccine. We have a country of 1.3 billion people, which means millions and millions of doses will need to be, assuming we have a valid candidate, millions of doses will need to be distributed. Do you believe that right now is when we should actually use this time to set up a structure as to how this vaccination will actually reach people so that there is no corruption, there is no hoarding, there's no room for crime?
Actually, firstly, that we should establish relationship with the vaccine companies, Indian vaccine companies, as well as outside vaccine companies. Without really, when all Indian agencies should support all vaccines, not the one which they're funding. Because this has to be done in a very neutral way so that whichever is the winner, they are part of it. And government also is now actually committed to support all vaccines. So maybe we get an Indian vaccine or we get an international vaccine. So those partnerships have to be established right away so that we get it. And some of the Indian vaccines are also good runner, like the Genova messenger RNA vaccine. They got best result in the monkeys. They have done it in international laboratories. and they have all the data. They have the preclinical data. They have created, very few people are talking about that, except Times of India. There was an article where everything was not stated about that. But it is also one of the vaccines, the Novavax, which is also undergoing trial in the different multiple countries. The Rockville one is also moving, and they have a Indian partner in the same way. And so this will come quickly, like Serum Institute was waiting in the wings that if they get
Yes.
positive result, they will now start in India. The same way Cadila will start in India if they get positive results. So there will be international vaccines, which might, the same way Aurobindo also
Okay.
had was a vaccine. So we will have, when we really look at it, we need to create partnerships right away. We
Yes.
also need to look at the allocations.
Yes.
Allocations are very, very important. We see that various ethnic groups have to be represented so that we know that the vulnerable groups get it more. Like Moderna vaccine, there are very few Black and Hispanics in the Moderna vaccine trial. In India, all states are not equally affected. The immune responses in northern and southern states in India are different. We studied it during the HIV thing. So in the allocation, the ones who will be the uh, frontline workers. They are not doctors, nurses, and others. They could be sanitation workers. These could be police people. These could be people who are providing us food. They are in the food chain. So there will be a lot of frontline workers who will be of different ages. The school teachers. Then there will be old people with underlying conditions. And I hope this condition doesn't arise at it arose in the ventilators, that
Yes.
when you didn't have enough ventilators, you made the older people die and allotted the ventilators to person who had more life before. This is an absolutely unethical practice. I hope that we are not forced to that in the allocation. In the same way, in the allocation, the pregnant mother will need it. At the moment, bridging studies have not been undertaken. The poor will need it because they are the most vulnerable. And there also we will have to map according to hotspots. We will have to provide it. We have a
Yes.
federal
So,
we have a federal structure. So in
yes.
this federal structure, the state will be vying for it. The people will be vying for it. They will be fighting. So at this given moment, we need to take people into confidence and start working on the allocations and
Yes.
very strongly set up surveillance, molecular surveillance, and other surveillance system, so that when we make a decision, we make a smart decision. We
Yes.
also need to see that there is a supply chain, there is a cold chain. We don't know at what temperature vaccines will work. India has always needed multi-vial. If we are getting an international vaccine, we will have to get that. We will
Yes.
have to know that how we will deliver this vaccine, because our primary vaccination need should not be affected. We will have to see how we will position it. If it is every year vaccine, we will have to create funds for that. So at this given moment, if you really ask me, if you give a vaccine to me today and say that provide it to people everywhere in India, I may die of a heart attack because I will not know what to do with that.
Also, you said at the beginning of our conversation that the other option that we should be looking at, the other event we should be looking at, is herd immunity. Now, we are currently adding 40,000 fresh cases every day in India. Our mortality numbers are very low, thank God. But for a country of 1.3 billion, how many cases do we need to be adding in order to achieve herd immunity?
Actually, if we see some of the countries in United States is the very best study arena. We do not have a very good herd immunity study in India. But in United States, there are a lot of studies which have been undertaken for the herd immunity. Even the places where the infection is 20% or more than 15%,
Yes.
in there also the herd immunity has not built up well. These neutralizing antibodies after natural infection is very short lasting. They don't last long. So herd immunity will be an angina. We also don't know that in the vaccinated persons, what is the height of the immune response? They have measured neutralizing antibodies. They have measured it for a short period. We do not know how long those will last. So for a herd immunity, we need to have a good antibody level circulating, and and thereby boosting the available scenario. So we have three scenarios. The vaccine will work at 45% level, vaccine will work at 50 or 60%, 55% of level, vaccine will be working at 70% level. If the vaccine works at 40, 45%, it will reduce the transmission, not completely, and herd immunity will be needed. If the vaccine works at 55, even then we will need herd immunity along with the vaccine. If it
Yes.
works to 70% and more, it will have, it will stop the complete transmission of the virus. However, at this given moment, we do not know. Although the neutralizing antibody levels are very good in Oxford vaccine, almost everyone got it. The Cancino vaccine, everyone got it. In the Moderna vaccine, everyone got it. But we
Hmm.
will have to unravel this mystery of the T cells.
Yes.
That whether these will boost herd immunity, because these will be long lasting memory cell. If you again encounter a virus when you in the environment, you may get a boost. So this is the something which we will have to take. The other problem is that the two vaccine doses are at 28 days apart, and what we will have to see, that whether these 28 days apart, we will get a person second time to get the second dose. The immune responses build up only after second dose, not after first dose that much, because after second dose it becomes a reality. So that is again something which we do not know at this given moment. So there are so many unanswered questions at the moment in the trial. There are more unanswered questions. So people are getting absolutely hitting the roof, being
Yes.
very happy. But I will analyze it every line of the trial and then come to those conclusions. Then when you are actually undertaking trial, how the Oxford vaccine guys did it, they have a huge army of people who they have put in the place. They will be reaching 10,000 people, or Moderna will be reaching 30,000 people. Each person you will have to work for informed consent for half an hour. You will
Hmm.
have to take an antibody before, and you will have to use two neutralization test assay and one ELISA assay. And then you will have to gather another sample next week and another sample next week. So for the first 20 to 3 months, you have to
Right.
get a frequent sample to know that whether the person is infected or not. The human
Yes.
challenge studies could give us a quicker answer, but there are so many questions in human challenge. To do a human challenge in COVID, you will need a huge amount of ethical analysis to really do that. So it is at the moment under discussion. We do not know that whether a human challenge will be possible or not. Otherwise, at this given moment, we have some information and we have huge number of information which we don't have.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much for joining us here and answering these questions. It's very important to remember that while we cheer for the vaccine, and we should, because good news is hard to come by in this period, and we haven't had too much good news. It is good news that there are vaccines being worked on, but these vaccines still have a few phases of testing to go through. And there is a reason why there are several phases, because if they fail those tests, then we go back to the drawing board. In the meantime, there is an appeal, quite rightly, as put forward by the experts, that the government begins at this point to put together an independent panel of scientists who will figure out how we acquire this vaccine, if it's not in India, it's not being manufactured in India, and how we distribute it to the right people in a scientific fashion, not allowing politics or money or power or any other kind of interest to come into play if and when the vaccine is in fact distributed in India. It has to be done in a scientific manner to make sure that the right people who really need it and the right people who can teach us the most about that response get it on time. Professor Nirmal Kumar Ganguly, thank you so much for speaking with me and answering those questions. Thank you.